these daggy paintings for rightful things to rightful places, and my point was that that has nothing to do with this. This is a DAR monument, it belongs in Norwalk. I'd like to put it together and restore it. And I found out for them that they're welcome to borrow the daggy paintings. They were donated to Norwalk, but they're of Wilton scenes, but that family's still alive, and they wanted them to be in Norwalk Historical. So nobody had ever told them they could borrow them on a long-term loan before. So I was able to go up there. My husband has a landscaping company, so the guys were willing to help bring this 2-ton granite trough back from Wilton. Now, my problem was, I don't want to bring it to my house. Like, what am I what are we going to do with it? Great, we can go get it, but we don't. So I called Parks and Rec and I said, I'm going to get this trough. It's coming back to Norwalk. And he didn't know what I was talking about. But I said, I don't want to just dump it off in front of the Nathan Hale School with the other piece. That wouldn't be, very nice. And so he said, well, at Fodor Farm, they're looking to do an herb garden, and they wanted to do a fountain there. And so just at that time, I said, great, we'll bring it there, just to have it placed. But as it turns out, it's the perfect location for it, because it's on, there's me in front of the other piece. I'm trying to find it's on the Nathan Hale. I found this 1901 book, and I couldn't believe it. In the inset photo on the map was this Nathan Hale monument, as well as its sister monument in Huntington, Long Island. And Nathan Hale left New York. He went through Stamford, Rye, here's Stamford, and to Norwalk. And it was in Norwalk that he changed into Dutch Brown's schoolmaster clothes as his disguise, and went across the way to Huntington, Long Island. And I'm not clear, I've heard different accounts of what happened on this side, but he ended up being sentenced to hang and as a traitor. And he's deemed America's first spy. When I was down at the CIA, my uncle had a retirement at the CIA. There's a statue erected to Nathan Hale in front, and he's Connecticut's state hero. So it's pretty big that, this is the Nathan Hale Trail, I call it, because, and so Flax Hill Road, where this herb, and I did an herb garden design based on a McKim Mead White book, is on Flax Hill. This is the moving we did just a few months ago in September of the other part, and we brought them both to Fodor Farm. And actually somebody read the article from Wilton about the move, and I've met with him, and Elizabeth Raymond Ambler, Ambler Trust, is willing to pay for the complete restoration of the monument, the bronze pieces that are missing, and the herb garden. Because Elizabeth Raymond Ambler was a member of the DAR, and she would have loved to have her money go towards a monument. So I'm all set to get going on that. So anyway, I added more things into that because there was more things that happened. In the book covers, there was a flood of '55 that completely devastated the downtown Wall Street area. And Norwalk Airport. Okay, that's on West Rocks Road. The Norwalk Airport, one time I was sitting at Overton's, which is a roadside stand that has clam bellies and hamburgers, and I looked up on the hill across the way over the harbor, and there's this large house with a red roof, and I just wondered, what is that? So I started to drive, and I talked to him, and he's like, don't go up, let me go with you, because it's, I guess, a project now, it's not a very safe. But it used to be Wadsworth Sanitarium, and Dr. Wadsworth had, I heard of his draft dodger buddies would stay there during World War I, but it also was, for people who were, had neurosis and alcoholism. Anyway, Charles Wadsworth had a son that loved to fly airplanes, and he ended up buying a lot of property up towards Wilton area, Norwalk. And This is the property that he bought at first for his son to fly airplanes, which then became Norwalk Airport, and it was used as a lookout during World War II. The airport closed, and Dr. Wadsworth had left it to the Catholic Church. This property then became Central Catholic High School. Now it's All Saints High School. There's I had Stu Leonard's, it was called Clover Farms Dairy. I actually remember the milk bottle boxes as Clover Farms. The picture in the book is an older one with the Divco milk truck. This one's in El Camino with a cow. This is the Ludlow Monument, which is on the way to the beach. This has a bas-relief on there, which has the same as that WPA mural, the Mahakamo signing the treaty with Ludlow. That's another picture of it with some kind of a parade with people dressed up with Indian costumes. Here's an early view of the Washington Street Bridge. Now, East Norwalk's here, South Norwalk here. This is before there was a regular bridge. This was rail-only crossing at one point, and then there's another bridge after this, which is the Walk Bridge now that they're talking about, that they actually will, because I went to the meeting up there, that they're going to replace it with a new bridge, because similar to this, it was a pivot. It pivots, and it's operating now in an oval shape instead of a circular shape, and they have to go and manually maneuver it whenever it needs to open up for boats. So that design, although it seems like I didn't understand why they had to replace the whole thing, but it seems like the whole basis for what the timbers and everything below, it's not worth trying to replace that, and that technology is outdated. All right, this was another end of a trolley spur, Dorland's, and this building burned down in 1902. This is just, it's not a carousel. I've looked and looked at a lot of pictures. In one place I saw something about a carousel being there, but I've never seen it any other place. And when you look in the pictures, it's really just a round picnic pavilion. They'd have a lot of clam bakes and shore dinners there. And now the Shore and Country Club in Norwalk is in that location. This is Calf Pasture Beach. Looks pretty much the same, except these buildings aren't there. All right, so when I worked on the Roten Point book, I had brought down the draft of the Roten Point book to my dad's in Florida, and I was all done with it. I'd submitted everything, and I gave it to him to look it over, and he got to the part where I talk in that book about the Seaview Restaurant. The Seaview Restaurant used to be the Penny Arcade. When they closed Roten Point, they floated the Penny Arcade on the barge, and it became the Seaview. And in my caption on that book, I had listed all the names, Bosun Pipe, all the different names, but I didn't have the Seaview, and that's where my dad met my mom. Like, of all the things in the book to not have right was that fact. I was able to stop by in South Carolina where the book was printing. It was a Saturday. There was one guy there, and he was the production editor, and I just kind of wanted to peek around and see, if the book was on press, and see if I could get a preliminary copy. But I said, there is one little nitpick, if I could, if it hasn't gone to press yet, because I guess the printing takes place in another building. And he was able to bring up the copy on the screen, and I was able to make the correction, and a couple days later he said, "You're in luck, it didn't print." So I was like, oh, phew. I just could envision my dad all summer long. Yeah, well, it doesn't have the Seaview, and it's all these other names. But I was able to get it taken care of.
So where's the Seaview restaurant?
Oh, now it's Harbor Lights. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Harbor Lights, actually next to Overton's. It's the same family that owns both of those. And it's been completely, I didn't know of its being a Groton Point building until they had raised it and I saw it on the front page. And this is really before I got involved with a lot of this. And I was said, oh no, I would have taken pictures of it if I knew. All right, this is South Norwalk. This is when the tracks were at level. Right here is where the bridge is now. It's an elevated bridge and all the tracks are elevated. That's the old station that's now down the road 2 blocks at Monroe Street. But the Old Well, South Norwalk was first called Old Well, and Old Well Cigar Company is that building there. This was something I was curious. I never found out much more about it. The Fox Runabout in the horseless carriage website. It has this as South Norwalk, and I've yet to find anything more. I didn't include it because I didn't really have much to say about it, but I figured if anyone ever knows anything more about the Fox Runabout, it would be interesting to know. This truck, the Barker trucks were, actually we go to the Hershey Car Show in Pennsylvania because we have a few classic cars. And while there I was trying to find information about the Barker trucks. And even the fire engine guy, they didn't really know much about it either, but it was a regional truck company. They did like low gear, worm drive trucks. And I did notice that when the city of South Norwalk and Norwalk consolidated, that all the fire stations got new Barker trucks. So that was where I ended up finding pictures of it, and this is one of them. And he also did marine engines. Actually, at the Rowayton Historical Society, we have a marine engine in the marine exhibit that's made by Barker. And he was located near where the Lockwood Matthews Mansion is today. This was called Crescent Street. This is Mayhoff Garment. They provided housing for all the women that worked there. They lived in those houses. This was a merchant photo. The Jewish archives in Stanford was a great resource for me to find a lot of the interior merchant photo shots with all the repository for all the Norwalk collection is in Stanford for the Jewish archives. And it's so many proud owners with their stores. It was great. There's so many good detailed shots in there. The Hungarian population was the second largest in the United States at the turn of the century. And they settled in Whistleville, so-called because the trains that would come through there would blow the whistle when they go around the bend. And the Hungarians lived there, and then the Italians moved in. The Hungarians mostly lived on a street called Ely Avenue, and then the Italians moved in on Lexington Avenue. And they had a lot of similar family values coming from Europe and religion, and then they intermarried, and Boughton Street was a lot of the mixture of the people. I was at Dunkin' Donuts next to a group of people that were talking about this. They grew up there, and it was really coincidental, and they told me about that part of it. This was a big hat factory, Wilson's, not related to my maiden name, but there was many hats and oysters were the biggest companies.
Is that the building that became the factory store?
Yeah, there was a factory store. There was straw hats. I mean, there was many. There's like 45 hat companies at one point. At the largest, so it was very big. There was and in the WPA mural that's in Norwalk, in the auditorium, I hadn't really thought about, I have a pet rabbit, and I hadn't really thought about the beginning of the mural has rabbits, and then it has sort of the sequence of how the hats were manufactured. So rabbits, and then it was felt who come from fur felt hats.
The employees were all men?
Well, it looks like they were all men there. I wouldn't know that one way or the other, I'm not sure. But it looks like they were there and probably doing the skinning of things with probably men. All right, the islands in the shoreline. So this one, well, this is near the shore. This is Meadow Street. I went down to LaJoy's auto wrecking place because I thought I was going to get a picture from Don LaJoy of his car racing days. I was trying to get a lot of different topics. And he didn't really have anything on hand, but this was on his wall. This was Don LaJoy and his brother and his mother with his cab-over engine truck. And I guess his family found another truck just like it and restored it for him. But his property used to be the site of, it was called Amusement Park. And there was circuses would set up there. And so in the book I have pictures of them setting up for the circus. There was Baxter Park right near there too, where the World War I veterans had a big picnic, and there's picnic tables with lots of people, gathered there coming home from World War I. So this was the amusement park where they played baseball games there too. And Nash Engineering, this was torn down recently. It was just one floor, and then they added those three. And behind it, there's a creek, Village Creek behind it. That was the earliest pottery site. And I found a magazine from the 30s that had pottery shards. So, of course, I put my boots on and kind of went around trying to see if I could find anything, but I didn't. But that's the same location. That was the Hoyt pottery. This is Shorefront Park. And in the distance is Dorlands with their bathhouse across the way. This is the Norwalk Harbor. On Sheffield Island, there was, for a time, there was a island club. Robert Corby built this place for, I guess, royalty, and people would come and they'd take the boat out to his island club on Sheffield Island. Of course, this summer when I did a lot of book signings and presentations, I did one out at Sheffield Island, and the people there were more interested in picnicking and stuff, so it was a good opportunity for me, and I got permission with the Fish and Wildlife, because you can't go over to the other side.